G'day, I'm the Tuber Reviewer, and I break down your videos and tell you what you're doing wrong. Today we're breaking down a very hard-working mini-tuber journeying with Tab.
I used to have a sense of pride in thinking that I had a good...
The first thing I notice is that he has an understanding of how to replicate artistic shots and combines it with genuinely doing interesting things. But then we have problems with not completely understanding storytelling and some filmmaking basics.
For instance, syncing audio. This is something myself I struggle with, but it's always made easier by my sync clap. Now you can use a proper slate or clapper board, but we don't really need that for YouTube most of the time.
You can see the waveform and line it up with the clap, and if it doesn't exactly line up, keep this in mind.
We don't really notice if the sound lags video by up to 125 milliseconds, but we can tell something is wrong if it's leading the video by more than 45 milliseconds.
Veritasium link in the description. But as a rule of thumb, generally have the audio directly on or slightly after the video.
As I show you
The first time I watched this, it went for so long that I thought it was actually the video, but because there was no narrative, it was just a bunch of shots, and it turns out that this was just an intro. These are the kinds of things that you'll see while scrolling through Facebook. No real purpose, no real engagement, and you just scroll past after a few seconds or you've got the general gist of it.
Just made it to Thunder Valley.
Then we're followed by a shot that's on a camera with shoddy quality, decent audio, but not a consistent volume in the video.
About an 8 to 9 hour drive.
Now, if you have a complicated camera that you don't know how to use, there's 3 ways to increase light. 1, the shutter angle, or shutter speed, which is not something you particularly want to play with. You just generally want to leave that at 180 degrees or 150th. Then there's ISO, which is what you've done. You've pumped it all the way up, and that's made it look very grainy. But with the compression of your camera, it's ended up looking even worse than this. And finally, the one that you would like to play with, aperture. Now, you don't get that on GoPros or whatever else really, but aperture is the one thing that'll help you make your shot artsy and look better in low light. Shallow depth of field and such.
On the other hand, if you do lots of nighttime shots, consider a Sony A7S. It'll also increase the artsiness of your images. I'll put a link in the description to a review of the A7S and why I suggested it for low light video. Here, these are just shots, and shots without narrative should be artsy. In this case, I would have subtitled what the cooks are saying. Take the viewer on a journey that you've made.
The trout and karahi chicken are about to be greedily consumed. And now back to your scheduled program.
This is a good example. You're disrupting the flow again, but telling it in order would have worked. Think of a story as a ramping in expectations building to a climax, and mini ones all throughout the video building to the video's main overriding climax.
Now, any professional documentary maker will start filming but not have the story done until everything is already finished filming. Then they create the story in the edit. Here the voiceover can be powerful, but consider sitting down in front of the camera and then presenting it. There was no way these guys were going to allow this to be just a match. No, this was too big. Then the national pride was on the line. No, we needed a feast. Whilst often cutting back to you during that. Now, this is also a trick that you could use to help fill out something when you've accidentally forgotten to film quite enough. It is a very helpful little trick. Man, these guys really know how to show their excitement. We were dancing all night long.
I got up to this text, and this is the first time you actually talk about the point of the video.
Oh, we're going on a journey. Phew, I was starting to get bored. But a journey? Where to? What for? How can I look forward to something if you haven't already given me that reason for something to look forward to? You have to give me a reason to watch your video, and you haven't.
Oh, and somewhere along the way we made a stop at a local bookshop. spent $5, and we were able to get 100 notebooks and pencils that we randomly gave out to the local youth we encountered in our travels.
Here we go, something interesting again. But once again, you've also shown it out of order.
This is not her day. Fade to black. Title, 3 weeks earlier.
I'm not a huge fan, personally, of the whole 3 weeks earlier teaser thing. I feel like, we should start our stories where they begin, not start them where they get interested.
Get out.
What?
No, I'm sick of this. You bang on my door, you beg me to help you, I share something personal with you, and you take a giant shit on it.
We need a beginning, a middle, and an end. Set us up.
But before we headed out, we thought we would go to the local shops and pick up something for the kids that are in the area. They are so bright, but like so many around here, they're just lacking in resources. It's the least we could do.
It made for some super fun conversations, which you'll see throughout the series.
Did you notice my inflection, my passion? The fact that you could see my face, so then you have something to connect to. This, right here, this is what helps people get emotional.
Now, most people won't notice these effects because they'll probably have this on in the background, not paying too much attention, but it made me motion sick and want to throw up. This is called a push-pull, a dolly zoom, or just the vertigo shot. You can do it in post if you want, but instead move the camera into the interesting thing and crop the image appropriately since you can't zoom on consumer drones. Instead of text everywhere, like a short 1-minute charity video on Facebook, consider utilizing your voice more. If you want an example, a really good one is watch a Top Gear special and note when they talk and when they use voiceover.
1965 mods and rockets! Richard had a new look too, but sadly not a new bike.
Then realize that they say a whole lot more on location, but only use what fits the narrative once it's all created in the edit.
I really wanna know.
Here we go. Once again, make sure that your voice is loud. Generally, I keep my voice to -6 decibels in the edit, that's what I was taught at university, and the music, I will generally, as a rule of thumb, keep it to -15 or less. I never want to start talking people thinking that it's just background noise. I want you to pay attention when I start talking.
Anyway, you've gotten a lot better with talking up to this point, and I've gone over everything that I've seen wrong so far. Really, there's not a whole lot changing here. But since you've not set out a point for me to keep watching, I'm bored, and I've stopped watching. But remember, even Michael Moore doesn't say that he makes documentaries. He says he's making movies.